Hi, I'm Tracey Sofra and welcome to the Women of Wealth podcast, which is dedicated to helping women achieve financial independence and thrive in every area of her life. So, why do I feel guilty after spending money? Is this something that you have experienced? Is this something that's common that goes on all the time? Or maybe you never have? You see, society and messages from the media, we know this, right? And pressures from family and friends can make you feel really guilty about spending money. Even your money mindset can make you feel like you should be doing something else with your funds. It's as if you should only be spending money on things that you need and not ever treating yourself to things that you want. So let's get into how to manage those feelings of guilt when you are spending money. So if there's a lot of guilt about spending too much and not saving enough, let's talk about the guilt of spending money on the wrong things. When you're starting to feel guilty about spending money, especially spending money on yourself, remember this: money is a tool, and it's a tool to be used. So as you work through and as we talk about these processes, remind yourself that you shouldn't feel guilty about using what's available to you, as long as it is decisions that are not hurting you and that are helping you progress. And there's always room for the needs, and then there's got to be a bit of room for the wants, right? Because we only live once and you need to live in the here and now as well as providing for your future self. So why do you feel guilty when spending money? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you can feel guilty spending money. And your guilt could be, the first place, you know where I'm going to go with this, right? The first place is potentially from your childhood, because a lot of our financial DNA, our money mindset, whatever you want to call it, where you come from money, has a huge role to play in where you are today in terms of financially and the decisions that you've made about money that has led you to this point, and potentially the decisions you're making about money from this point on, all stems back from your childhood and where you were with mum and dad. But also over and above that, you know, it could be a lack of planning or a shift in your priorities, depending on where you are feeling mentally and emotionally at this point in your life. But knowing the source of the guilt is beneficial, as you can use that to progress forward to combating this feeling of guilt. But whatever the cause, it's important to ask yourself, why do I feel guilty about spending money? Again, that's if you are actually feeling guilty about spending money, and you need to get to the root cause of the issue. So one of the things could be that do you have a scarcity mindset? The way that you treat and feel about your money is often based on a money mindset, as I mentioned, stemming from your childhood. So did you come from a family that money was scarce, money was something that wasn't readily available, and there was no abundance? So is that playing out in your life now? Is that the cause of the guilt when you're going around and spending money? So if you grew up seeing your family struggle financially, then you may still be feeling guilt about spending money today. It does play out. Just, do me a favor and make sure you take time, take even 5-10 minutes of that almost meditative space for yourself to just close your eyes and imagine yourself back at home. And what were the conversations? What did it feel like? What was going on at home with mum and dad when it came to money? What happened? Try and delve back into that, and I know you will find the answer. So that could be playing out right now because of a scarcity mindset, because of what you experienced as a child back at home. Money and financial well-being are tied to emotions, very much so. As you know, if you've been listening to my podcast all the way through, I talk about this all the time. And in terms of that, you feel good when you're able to take care of what you want and what you need. That's called financial well-being. And it's like any other form of well-being that I speak about. It's about having physical well-being. It's about looking after yourself, your nutrition, and it's about your your mental health as well. So financial well-being is no different to any one of those. So if making yourself feel good about your money and about meeting your needs and wants, that's a really powerful thing. Do you feel bad when you're short of money? What does that make your financial well-being feel like? You know, guilt can creep in when you feel like you shouldn't be spending money on something, or you shouldn't be spending money at all. Is that little voice in the back of your head going, no, don't spend it. No, you need to keep it. No, you're not deserving. No, you need to keep it, in the bank. Or is all of that going on in the background? And that guilt feeds into this scarcity mindset. So to combat guilt, you're going to need to shift your mindset away from thinking that spending money on the things that you enjoy is a bad thing, because it's not a bad thing. You've got to have balance, but you've got to have a bit of both, right? And limiting beliefs can cause you to feel guilty about spending money. And it's that scarcity mindset that's limiting you at the moment, if that's where it's coming from. But it's not going to be the same for everyone. And that is why I say make sure you're spending that meditative time to see where your guilt is coming from. So whatever the guilt and wherever it's coming from, treating yourself is really important, and you shouldn't be feeling bad about doing that. The other thing is, let me ask you, do you feel like your money should be put to better use? Now, we all know, we all hear that we probably should put our money to better use than spending on ourselves. Being a money expert, if you like, a financial advisor for all these years, an accountant, and doing it for myself and doing it for thousands of women, I get it. I get that we are focused a lot more on putting money away, on making sure money's working for us, and is it invested, and are we paying down debt, and are we doing all those things? Yes, I get it. I mean, it's my world. Yes, that is what I preach. But at the same time, I'm hoping that you've heard the back end of that story, which says, hey, while there's life to be lived and led right here, right now, make sure that you're balancing out your future self needs with the needs and wants of today as well. Should you be putting your money to better use? Yes, always, but not at the expense of the life that you want to lead now. So you may feel guilty about spending money because you feel like you could be doing better things with it. Maybe you feel pressured to save your money and put additional money towards goals or expenses. Our surroundings, our environment, the people we hang with has a lot of influence on all of those decisions, on the should-dos or the must-haves or the should-bes, But again, if you take that time to kind of sit in your own space and dig deep into your own internal self, your answers will come to the surface. It's really, really important where there's so much noise in the world and so many images and so many influences being thrown at us all the time. It's probably the most important time ever in the world's history to actually step back and take that personal time to just check in on yourself to make sure that you haven't got caught in that tidal wave of people influencing you all the time. And I know personally, and I know that if you do this, you will find the answers within. It is there. Trust the instincts. It's absolutely there. So spending sometimes doesn't feel safe. I get that, especially now with so much uncertainty going on in the world. But the uncertainty is always there. The what ifs and what's going to happen, that backdrop has always been there, irrespective of the here and the now, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 100 years ago. We always had that. I was having this conversation with a client yesterday when I was doing a review with a client that's been with me for, in excess of 10, 15 years. And they said to me, Trace, we're ready now to invest in a property. And that, I'm not saying go and invest in property. I'm just sharing this experience with you to say that they were saying to me, is it right now for us? And I basically said, it doesn't really matter what's going on in the background with all the uncertainties. Are you financially ready to move forward with that decision? Because if you are, then it's the right time. Anytime's the right time when you're ready to proceed with that. So don't let external forces get you get you scared and spook you from progressing forward. So do you feel guilty about spending money because you're afraid of not having enough of it either? So it could be the uncertainty, it could be timing, it could be thinking that you're not going to have enough, and all of that can bring on this guilt feeling of every time you spend money, you're feeling really, really guilty. And guilt arises from a lack of planning as well, big time. You feel worse about spending when your ducks aren't in a row, okay, and you don't know where you stand. How can you actually spend any money and provide for yourself and your needs and your wants and making sure everything's balanced out if you don't have any sort of idea about where your budget is, where, the inflows and outflows of money that comes in and out of the household. And that comes down to better planning, which allows you to spend by making you aware of your situation, where you stand right now financially, and the money that you will have available to spend. And you won't know that unless you're actually doing a budget. But more of that in a sec. So make a plan to be sure that your financial goals and responsibilities are taken care of, and also plan for spending so that you don't feel guilty about it later. We don't want guilt around a beautiful thing, which is the money that you've earned, and it's your God-given right to spend a little bit on yourself while providing for your future self. One other thing I'm going to allude to here is, are you buying things that don't align with your values? So that can cause a lot of guilt, obviously. So in a world, again, fueled with social media influencers, you may be feeling guilty after spending money because of the things that you buy based on those influencers. When you purchase things that don't align with your wants, needs, or values, you may feel guilty after spending that money. And so again, are you caught in that slipstream of everybody else is doing it, you've got caught in that tidal wave, and away you go, and you come home and you've bought these things and you're like, I'm not sure I should have actually done that. I think I got caught in the moment. And it's really important to step back from that moment. And again, check in with yourself. You know better than anyone. So making purchases because of someone else's influence or to keep up with your peers can cause buyer's remorse big time. For those purchases that don't reflect your actual desires, that's when the guilt's going to seep in, right? So these feelings of regret and guilt can even cause you to feel guilty about spending money on things that you actually want. And that guilt can carry on and carry forward and prevent you from spending on things that do align with your values and your priorities. And, I've spoken a lot about value-based goals and prioritizing and really understanding yourself, because everything does start and end with understanding yourself and with digging deep into yourself and getting perspective about the outside world. We are more vulnerable today than we've ever been in terms of being influenced, let's face it. So begs the question, how do you not feel guilty about spending money? To be able to spend your money guilt-free, it's important to identify triggers, that I've spoken about just before, and make plans to handle those finances responsibly. So enjoying the benefits of your hard work is really important, as well as making sure that you're providing for your future self. And there are steps that you can take to encourage this guilt-free spending. And let me share with you those particular steps. So the first one is take care of your responsibilities. When we take care of our responsibilities and the most important things first, we know that it's like this. It's like thinking of someone that wanted to work with me many, many years ago, and she pretty much told me that she had a really off day and she was being paid monthly. Just this example's just come to mind as I'm sharing all of this with you. She got paid monthly, and she wasn't very responsible with her money. She was having a really off day. Something had happened personally in her life, and she went and spent her whole month's wages on a shopping spree. And really my mouth kind of dropped. I just couldn't believe that this person could actually do that so carelessly without thinking about what's going to happen for the rest of the month in terms of taking care of responsibilities. So if you're going to go and spend all of your money on, without responsibility and blow all of that, what happens to the rest of the week or fortnight, the rest of the month? So when you take care of what you're responsible for first and foremost, and making sure that that is taken care of, then any spending you do on yourself after that obviously is going to be guilt-free, right? It's not going to be guilty. But if you reverse it and do it the other way, of course you're going to feel guilty. So check in with your financial responsibilities and your goals, and being able to see that you're still on track and making progress helps alleviate that guilt. And many times when you're thinking, why do I feel guilty after spending money? It's because you feel like you're not taking care of some other need or responsibility. You know you're neglecting some other responsibility or need that should be coming first, but then you've kind of switched it around and, given into that emotion of, I really want it, I really need it. I've seen it so many times. I've got to have one too. I get it. But, tracking finances to make sure your necessities and goals are being met and to get an overall picture of where you stand is really, really important. And when you feel like you have a good handle on things, spending freely without guilt becomes easier, doesn't it? Of course it becomes easier. Second step you want to take in overcoming this is determine what causes you to feel guilty after spending money. So to answer the burning question, why do I feel guilty about spending money? You need to determine what's causing this guilt. Is it your money mindset? Are you comparing your financial situation to others? That's a really bad one. Comparison is the thing that brings you down and makes you feel horrible. It's never a good feeling. So comparison is the killer of all joy, I think I've said in the past. Do you feel guilty about spending money on certain things? Again, those things may not align with your values. It's really important to figure out what is triggering the guilt. Find the trigger and kind of stop it in its tracks and then question that. Identifying what's causing your guilt gives you a point of focus to work through and to get rid of that guilt. So you need to understand what it's about spending money that brings these feelings to the surface so that you can actually eliminate these triggers when you're moving forward. Of course, I'm going to mention things such as making a plan for your money, without a doubt. You have to plan for your money because it's not an endless, it's not, typically, money doesn't grow on trees, right? We have to go out, we have to earn it, and then we've got to manage it responsibly for the here and the now and the future self. So now you know where you stand financially, you need to know what causes your guilt after eliminating those triggers. So it's time to sort of take control of your money by making a plan for it. Let's plan for it. And what's the plan? Budgeting, of course. And I don't like the word budgeting too much. So it's more around the cash flow, like what's coming in and what's going out of the household. It's going to help you take away that stress of feeling guilty about spending money. So creating a budget is not it's not meant to be seen as a negative or restrictive thing. Please don't, because the word budget conjures up that emotion, doesn't it? It's almost like, nobody wants a budget. No one wants the budget hotel or the budget meal or nobody really wants that, really, do they? So if you don't like the word budget, just replace it with what I talk about, cash flow analysis. But creating a cash flow analysis is not meant to restrict you. It's meant to actually empower you. It's meant to provide guidance to help you see what you can afford to spend money on. And it also helps you to eliminate those feelings of guilt or feeling guilty that you're always running out of money. So after making sure that your needs are met and your goals are handled, give yourself a monthly allowance with the specific intent of spending freely. Now, we do this in all of our programs. We have a system called the cash flow framework. It is gold. It's absolute gold. And what we teach is the allocation of funds. So you simply go through your cash flow analysis, which is income, what's coming in, what's going out, and hopefully 9 times out of 10, most people have what's called a surplus, yeah? It's income, less expenses, what's left over, and then you allocate that to your future self in the form of investing. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that the surplus is put to good use. Now, one of the things that we have the surplus for, we provide what's called a fund bucket. A fund bucket for you. When your bills are accounted for, your future self's accounted for, and your fund bucket's accounted for, there you have the perfect formula for guilt-free spending. And it needs to be in there because it's realistic. It's actually unrealistic to assume that you're going to meet all your needs with your bills and you're going to put away money for the future and you're going to have nothing to live off in the here and the now. And that's a really sad situation. And that is, it's unrealistic and it's not sustainable. So providing for it is really, really powerful through your cash flow analysis. So setting aside a portion of your pay to spend on things that you want cultivates a shift in your mindset that alleviates that guilt and that anxiety. And poof, away it goes, just like, I don't know, like your fairy godmother made it go away. So for times when you feel like treating yourself, you can create a list of things that you want to buy, and the budget will allow for it in the form of that fun bucket. So since these things are what you want and what you're planning for, you won't feel that guilt after you've spent the money, and you're going to feel at ease. And also you're going to have that peace of mind knowing the bills are paid for, my future self's provided for, but I'm having a bit of fun as I get there. And isn't that what life is all about? So the other thing is a couple of tips here in terms of saving for ongoing fun stuff. But then if you're saving for big ticket items, then you should consider a temporary spending freeze maybe. You could do that, you know. If it's short term and short lived, you could do that. But doing that for a long period of time, that's definitely not sustainable. So you could do a temporary spending freeze while you save for that big ticket item that you want to purchase. And that can also help you avoid guilt. But proper planning always allows you to get more out of your money, obviously. So create that cash flow analysis to provide that guidance and give you that peace of mind, and cultivate an environment where you're enjoying money rather than thinking that you're wasting it. Okay. Another tip here is learn to be okay with spending money on what you value. Now, values, there it is again, come up again. Values are different to each and every single one of us, and we live by our values. So most of the time we find that it's easier to spend money on others. If you're one of those people that love spending money on others and not yourself, you know, welcome to my world and most women that I speak to, their world. We feel anxious about spending money on ourselves, but spending money on the kids and, you know, our loved ones just comes naturally to us. And this is why, this is what we value. So don't feel bad about spending on what you value and what you like and what you enjoy. I just want to say you do work hard, so you should be able to enjoy your earnings without feeling guilty about that. If needed, you can cut back spending on things that aren't important to you to make room for the things that are important to you and what you value. So consider the positive aspects and feelings that come from value-based spending. We talked about value-based goals, obviously, and this is value-based spending money on the things that you value, but again, allowing that into your cash flow analysis through your fun bucket. Okay, so to stop feeling guilty about spending money, well, we spend a lot of time working to earn money, and you shouldn't feel guilty about spending it. But budgeting and spending on things that are important and that align with your values is absolutely not a waste. So what's the key takeaway here? Understand what you value, but make sure you've planned for it. Make sure, and the planning comes in your budgeting and your cash flow analysis, obviously. Remind yourself that there's no reason to feel guilty after spending your money on what you want, provided it's planned for, it aligns with your values. So next time you're asking yourself, why do I feel guilty after spending money? Consider these tips to get rid of the guilt and enjoy spending without guilt. If you want to learn how to be emotionally balanced, if you like, if I can call it that, with money while working towards your financial goals, then make sure to book a call with one of our strategists. They will share with you how to transform your money mindset, which is a huge thing, organise your finances, create a cash flow analysis, budget if you like, and make good financial choices and goals. Simply go to wowwomen.com.au, click the link to our programs, and best of all, the call is free. If you found today's episode helpful, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, take control of your wealth and your future.